What's raging, gamers? Good morning. How you doing, HenricK the Wreck?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Chris?
Oh man, I'm doing great, man. I mean, it's a beautiful day outside. It's not quite summer in Southern California. It's a bit gloomy, but you know what that means. We can all be couch potatoes. We can start playing some video games. We don't have to have some fun in the sun. We don't have to necessarily touch grass. I mean, I guess you could, but there's a lot of great games that are going to be coming out in the future. So kick back, have some fun, play some video games. But hey, we're here. We're ready to rock and roll. We're very excited about Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show, as this is our second episode of season 2. We have so much to discuss. But before we even begin, we always like to start it off by a lot of the goofy content that's been circulating across the web this week. And I'm just telling you, gamers, when you go outside and you start having fun and you start interacting again. I know COVID and the pandemic's been over for a while, but come on, man. We can all have some fun at these immersive interactive experiences, but just don't be this guy. That's a bit much, right?
Yeah, that is a bit much. He's a little dramatic.
Little dramatic. I think he was trying to flirt with some of the chicks that were playing some of the VR. I mean, he's purposely bumping shoulder to shoulder. I think he's having a little bit of too much fun. But we had a comment here that said, Mia's F right now. I'm a raging schizophrenic. So I guess there's some people that are supporting this kind of action. Another one was this comment right here, which clearly states, if you're not playing with this energy, I don't want you on my team. You're a liability. And the last one, you're a moron. So you know how the show clearly starts. I'm going to actually point the camera on you for a second, HenricK, because I have frozen, the beauty of live streaming. But just react to the natural audience. I mean, when you see this, I mean, what comes to mind?
Oh, just, like that person said, I think that they are actually a liability if they're acting like that. Because I don't know about you, but panicking during like a horror experience or like a zombie apocalypse or whatever it is that he's experiencing, that's a no-go for me. Like,
yeah, that's not the way to do it.
You're not on the team.
Like I said, or like the guy said in the Instagram comment, if you're going to look yourself up in the dictionary, there's going to be one word and you're going to be a straight up moron.
Exactly.
Well, let's go ahead and show you guys another clip because this is very relevant. I mean, there is obviously a terminology called rage quit for a reason. So I feel like we've all been through what this guy has gone through.
Was this? I almost did something I was going to regret.
It's a very real thing. A lot of people, got to make it through. I mean, the cost of living is not necessarily the greatest. I mean, I know on the West Coast, but, the comments
in
were
this
active.
economy?
Yeah, I know, right? In this economy. One guy wrote, the money, the only thing that saved my controller for real. And with that in said, is there a certain game that you could think about, HenricK, that just like infuriates the hell out of you every single time you play it?
You know what? I don't really get angry that much, but a game that can sometimes frustrate me when people are really, really sweaty is Apex Legends. Sometimes
Yes.
I'll just like die to someone who's like going and jumping off the walls, super gliding, everything. I was like, what the heck was that? And then I looked down at my keyboard. I'm like, I would never actually do this.
You know what I think?
Especially because you're $300, but
right.
I understand why some people do this.
I mean, I think my biggest frustration is like when you go to play any of the sports games like FIFA or the NHL and you start doing online matchmaking, and when you first get into it, they pair you up with like some of the worst players ever. So your euphoria and everything, the adrenaline rush is like really kicking in. And then after like 4 games after your first W, you're going to suck ass and you're going to get mollywopped by some of these guys out there, which is so freaking funny. I know one guy wrote controllers are $50+. That's literally gas for the week. And then lastly, damn. Imagine raging and letting it out on a controller. My shit's been perfectly fine for the past 8 months because that's when I got my console, but I don't rage like a child and try to break my shit. Good for
Got
you,
a good
bro.
point.
I guess you're better than everybody else.
I don't know what
guess.
that person saying that $50 is nothing was on, because I mean, $50 is a lunch and a dinner right there.
Exactly. But you know what's very cool and very innovative is, people getting creative in the space of the world of gaming, right? And everybody always dreams to have one of those really badass like driving simulators. Well, not everybody in the world has the money to, have the whole steering wheel and etc. But one guy was very clever in Jamaica, and let's let the video speak for itself.
In Jamaica.
Tough now. You should say you're gonna genius. Only in Jamaica. Only in Jamaica.
Dude, your face the entire time we were playing this video was gleaming from cheekbone to
That is
cheekbone.
very creative of that gentleman. I
pretty
applaud
badass?
him, and you know what? Where can I buy it?
That is so funny that you said that, because I know there was one cat who wrote, like, I'm trying to order me one on Amazon.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, that seems like a budget option that works for me.
Right? I mean, this was a flashback. Reminds me of the Nintendo Lab cardboard stuff that was being sold for a while. It's very clever, did a good job. I'm curious why they always stop that. And then lastly, I made that for him. I also cured world hunger and stopped racism and shit. So, I mean, that dude cracked me up. But I mean, that is kind of a good point. It's like, I totally forgot about the whole cardboard aesthetic that Nintendo was trying to do. And when you see that, doesn't it make you want to grab a shoelace and try to do that on your own? I mean, I think we have a potential YouTube short coming of HenricK the Wreck and Chris Collins, trying this out.
I don't know if I can make that. That requires some engineering, and I'm no engineer personally. I don't know about you. But...
Well, I mean, if the kid is not thinking about, college or university, someone check him out. He needs to go to engineering school. That was very, very cool. And then lastly, I added this in at the very last second because we want to throw out a huge congrats to the Denver Nuggets. It was over 47 years since they finally got their very first NBA championship, which is incredible. And I know Jamal Murray, obviously the Joker's been the biggest talk, right, HenricK? He's a baller, 30, 20, and 1, with #1 and 3 different accolades during the whole playoff series, which is really cool. But Jamal Murray,
I don't watch sports, but I know the name.
But it's all good because I'll catch up everybody who's not into sports, right? But you might be wondering, why am I bringing up Jamal Murray? Well, there's a very, very funny throwback, and we want to make some fun of Jamal Murray for a little bit because, he's a champion after all, but might not necessarily be in Fortnite. So let's check it out.
Another one, just barely misses, goes for the quick reload. Oh. Hey, we don't miss those, man. We don't miss those.
My bad.
You gotta watch out for this fall damage.
Oh my goodness. My bad, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. Listen, we'll cut this part out. You didn't miss any shots.
You can show it. It could be on bloopers. It don't matter.
Doesn't that crack you up? I mean, I guess my reaction is it's like, I know, well, let's go to the comments. I know one guy goes, not the live stream he's most known for. That's brutal, bro. If anybody knows, I'm not going to say what happened, but if you know, you know. That's brutal. Second one should have registered. I totally agree. That should have registered. And lastly, I've seen streamers hit headshots while flipping through the air with rectal 10 meters from their target. Poor dude is getting ghosted on shots that should have registered. I sort of agree. Does this make him, like the kids say, dog wet and flop like a fish?
Hey, I mean, at least he's shooting the gun. You miss any shot you don't take, right? So.
Oh, look at you. You're like, I'm just going to leave it like that. I love it, man. Well, hey, we got a jam-packed show for everybody that's joining us for Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show, where we talk about gaming news, industry talk, and so much more. So we might as well get the party started, right, HenricK?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's rage.
Hey, let's rage, baby. Let's get it. I'm gonna set the tone.
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Redfall. Redfall is an open-world first-person shooter made by Arcane Studios. Arcane Studios is most well known for the Dishonored games, and the influence of Dishonored shows in Redfall as well. No doubt, many of you have heard about the disastrous launch and state of this game, but despite this, let's objectively see what it's all about. To start off, let's talk about the gameplay. While taking inspiration from Dishonored, this game also takes inspiration from the Borderlands games. The gameplay of Redfall involves roaming the open world while completing main missions as well as side missions. All the while, you are upgrading your abilities and equipment. Each encounter with the enemies can be approached in whatever way the player would like, whether a guns blazing or stealthier approach is desired. This is on top of the game, giving you the option to choose from different playable characters with different abilities, just like a hero shooter such as Overwatch. However, the AI in the game seems to be a little half-baked, and enemies are fairly limited in variation, meaning you can easily toy with even the stronger vampire enemies. Speaking of vampires, that leads us into the story. The story of Redfall is about vampires. Specifically, you are stuck on an island that is ruled by vampires and controlled by cults that worship said vampires. You quickly find a group of refugees after arriving at the island, and together, you fight back against the vampires and their devout worshippers. Altogether, Redfall plays it safe, not trying too hard to innovate on the genre it falls into. However, to bring up the terrible state the game was in at launch, it may make the $70 price tag hard to swallow. But now the question still stands. Pause or repeat?
Vampires. That's what this game is all about. And, I have to say, actually, yesterday they finally did put out their big patch, their 1.1 patch. And they did fix some of the issues with like the AI and all that. But it is still very embarrassing that a game that came out in 2023 has worse AI than the original 3 Halo games. Like, that's ridiculous. Those games came out in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, no, it's pretty brutal. When you go and play this game, I've always noticed that a lot of the, the enemies, the vampires that you got to fight, some of them are so stupid that they don't even realize that you might be even hiding in a corner. You know what I'm saying? It's very generic. I think when I think about Redfall, I think about some of the concerns that people had about their early gameplay showcase of the Arkham game. With Batman and stuff like that, where people were upset that you had to shoot the little, purple blob on the leg of the enemy. And it's like, really, that's it? That's all we could come up with? And that's what the vampire corpses are. They're on those like bloody looking trees and stuff. And it's like, it becomes repetitive very, very quickly, where it almost comes across like you're just playing a Call of Duty zombie game. And I feel like a lot of people have already said this joke already, but when you think about vampires, what are you thinking about, HenricK?
My immediate thought goes to, the besmirched reputation they have ever since Twilight came out.
No, but I'm saying, like, when you think about the whole mythical idea of a vampire, what does a vampire not do?
Oh, they don't come out in the day and all
you get
that?
the point that I'm trying to get at? Redfall should have never seen the day of light.
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying. You get what I'm trying to get at? Like, it's a really bad game. And there's a reason why Xbox Studios are really coming out and saying, like, hey, listen, look, like, these guys are professionals at Arcane Austin. Like, they should have known better. I mean, this is the studio behind awesome games like Deathloop and Dishonored. So to see them come out not prepared for the spring/summertime, very disappointing. It's a definite pause. We don't even have a title. Do we have to add an extra title to pause or repeat? Because it's pretty bad.
It's just pause. That's it. But I was actually pretty disappointed by this game because, like it did look a little generic, but it seemed interesting at least, so I kept my eyes on it. And then when it came out and it was generic and boring, I was like, come on, guys, you can do better.
It's
I
forgettable.
did. Yeah, exactly. It's a forgettable game, and they actually did make Arcane Studios did make a lot of good, rememberable games that I played. I played Dishonored 1 and 2. I
Yeah.
enjoyed Prey, but every time I think about this, I always think about how it's probably a management issue when things like this happen, because there's been articles and all this about this already, that the developers themselves didn't really want to make this game even. And
Yeah.
then it's the same sort of thing that happened, well, not similar, not the same, but like similar thing that happened with a game that I like that they made back in 2017 called Prey. That game was supposed to be, actually, I think, originally called something different. It's called System Shock 3 potentially, or like like one of the
Oh.
BioShock successors.
Gotcha.
But they decided, you know what, it's not going to sell if we put it under that name. So let's get this other name from a game that no one knew and just put that on there. And do you remember Prey? Most people don't.
A lot of people don't. I always see it popping up on my PS Plus Premium, but I'm not necessarily jumping back to that game. I might have to revisit it, but it's just like, with the studio company, again, like you're saying, with these developers, we have so much faith in them. And I still do in the future, trust me. It's just one of those games where clearly we're starting to hear more rumors, more reports from behind the scenes, obviously because they're going to continue to get backlash for years to come. And that sucks. It's always going to be a grudge that's on your shoulder, but they will bounce back. But this game, it ain't it, fam.
Yeah, they're going to need a big win in their next game, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know we got so much more left on Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show, so stick around. Let's get it, fam.
Let's get it. What's up, gamers? So this is Patch Notes, where we get to talk about what's been going on in the gaming industry in the last week. So big news from a lot of developers. They've all come together in the Summer Game Fest and been able to show off some of their games.
Yeah, there was like
actually,
really cool ones.
Yeah, we
I
got
think
some
the first
real
one,
cool ones.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry. That's so rude of your co-host right here. But, the biggest thing that I thought, because I'm kind of controlling the media, guys, if no one's really figured that out by now. But I think the first image we could showcase, right, was the Xbox one. You want to go ahead and do that one first?
Yeah, let's do that one.
Let's go ahead and showcase this. We might have to take the caption off screen real quickly. But there was a lot of games, showcased in this event. Was there something that stuck out in this list that you're like most excited for?
A lot of people were talking about Starfield. The Cyberpunk DLC was interesting because, details came out about it, and it actually seems like they kind of remade that game. So I'll jump back in that in September when it comes out.
Yeah, I think I will too.
Yeah, but the things that actually stood out to me the most was that Star Wars Outlaws game and the Fable reboot. Those two seemed really interesting to me.
Those were absolutely incredible. We will showcase that gameplay, but I'm also looking at this list again. And do you see that Dune/Flight Simulator?
Mm-hmm.
Does that even sound exciting?
I mean, it could be.
Dune's dirt. I mean, like, what are they gonna do? You're gonna see a couple few iconic, buildings or towers or whatever.
I mean, they gotta do the sandworm. The sandworm.
Yeah,
has
maybe
to come
the
out,
sandworm. Yeah, it comes up. If it gets as high as an airplane, then we're gonna have a big issue. But I guess that might be kind of cool. But when I saw that, I kind of was like, that's a little goofy. But I mean, I guess that's pretty cool. But you kind of set the tone. You sort of started it. I think you're absolutely correct. Those are my two top games. I mean, right within the first 10 minutes, right? They show Fable, Star Wars Outlaw. I mean, how incredible is that? For anybody who hasn't seen the trailer for Fable, we have a little snippet for you.
This is awkward.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm glad that they are coming back to this series because it's been a while, and I think that a lot of people didn't like the last entry compared to the originals. So we'll see how
Yeah,
they do with this one.
you did really. I mean, I remember, man. I feel like when Fable 3 came out, it probably was like what 2010.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Like, it was a while back, but I remember that game being so intriguing and so much fun, especially because of that, RPG kind of environment. But, I love the idea that they're kind of resetting the tone for Fable, unlike Mortal Kombat on a level. I mean, it was cool to, get them up there during the Summer Game Fest, and Boone was super excited, and they got Van Dyne to come in and do, Johnny Cage and etc. But, like,
I mean,
I
there's
know
only so much you can really do with Mortal Kombat. You just gotta make it gory and fun to play, and that's it.
Right, but
Honestly.
I think, and I understand, that there was a twist to the end of the last Mortal Kombat game, but I think people are kind of sick and tired that, they're stealing the idea from the MCU, just like how the DC Universe is about to do it with the Flash movie and etc. It's just kind of an eye roller because it just becomes a bit lackadaisical and just not too much of a creative expression. But overall, I mean, Fable looks kick-ass, and I know the other game that I'm really hyped up about is the first ever open world Star Wars game. This gameplay footage, freaking incredible. Check it out.
That Imperial announcement wouldn't be about you, would it?
Could be.
I told you not to trust her.
Not the first time we've outrun the Empire.
With Nyx running at her side, Kay sprints up a ramp onto a landing pad. They hurry up a ship's open ramp, and once inside, make a beeline for the cockpit, where ND5 waits in the co-pilot's seat.
We need to leave.
Yeah, no kidding.
As Kay sits in the pilot's chair, options appear over the seat, controls, and navigation computer.
I mean,
I think that.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, you're good. I think that is going to be the game that a lot of Star Wars fans have been waiting for. Because, I mean, like, Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, they're their own separate thing. You're playing as a Jedi. This one, it's different, and I like it.
I do too. I think the only critique that I'll say is her face. It kind of looks like Fallout 4 NPC. On a level, I think they can, they still got time, they
like
were able to work
Uncanny Valley sort of thing going on.
Yeah, on a level, it's kind of like I'm hoping for like a little Sonic the Hedgehog movie kind of remaster on her face. If they got time, please do it, because I love that it's a female lead. I thought that was really badass. I mean, in this clip, we didn't get to show there's a little creature that's your little sidekick, and it's pretty cool. In some of the gunplay battles, you can actually send your little creature out and turn on toggles and gadgets and etc., which is really cool. And I think it's going to be very, very exciting. But when you check out the lineup when it comes to the PlayStation showcase, who had the better outing? And we went online. We wanted to know what gamers were thinking. And one of the captions was written, Xbox Showcase over the Summer Game Pass over PlayStation Showcase, period. Does that sound like the correct order to you, HenricK?
Honestly, yeah, kind of. Because the Xbox Showcase, they definitely banked on the big titles that they have coming out, like Starfield and then the ones that we talked about. The PlayStation Showcase, I think the one thing that they really were banking on was the Spider-Man game, Spider-Man 2.
Right.
Which, my coworker, he was super excited for that. He's like,
Me too,
I'm getting
man.
the 230 collector's edition with the statue and everything.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, okay, all right.
That might be a little bit much. I mean, I'm not going to go that crazy on the expensive Spider-Man 2. But, I mean, hey, kudos to everybody. I mean, it's a phenomenal series. It's actually, that's probably why the success of even the animated movie right now is being so highly...
Have you seen it?
I have not yet. I have
Oh
not.
my
I love the
God.
first one. It was very well done.
Chris,
But
you got to go see that in theaters when it's out there.
Oh, trust me, I will, my man. But, like, even when you think about, like, the ending of even the first Spider-Man, I mean, it's been out for a while. There's been no spoiler. Come on, guys. I mean, I'm going to do a spoiler. We kind of have an idea that the Green Goblin's coming. And I love the idea that they haven't even showed him once. I love that, because we don't even know if we're going to get the Jester look Are we going to get the iconic, William Dafoe with the metallic green, mask? I think that would be really, really fun and exciting. But I know also comments were very lively too. Ryan McCaffrey, he works with IGN. He's an OG. Clearly, as you can see from this poll, he said, I'm with all of you per my poll below. Xbox had a phenomenal Xbox showcase today. Fable surprised and delighted me, setting the tone for a great game. And they still have Indiana Jones, ID Software's next game, Everwild, and more in their back pockets. Bravo. And then you got other cats that go, Xbox fanboys, after seeing the same games for the last 3 to 4 years with no release dates, CGI, no gameplay, and massive downgrades. 10 out of 10, Phil Spencer. Which is pretty funny and sarcastic. But I wonder if people actually think the Xbox showcase worked better than the PlayStation showcase, only because, like you just referenced, everybody's talking about Spider-Man 2. And they held that off at the very, very end of their live event. In Xbox showcases, circumstance, 2-hour event, the first 10 minutes popped off with the bang. The rest, to me, irrelevant.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I mean, I know that a lot of people were really hyped about Starfield. And we didn't really talk about that too much yet, but I don't know. I want to wait until that game really comes out to see what goes on with it.
Well, what do you think about
Bethesda.
Xbox defending the developers and the studio behind that game by claiming that they got to lock it on 30 frames per second? I know personally with myself, I could give two shits. I mean, a lot of cats have been playing Fallout 4, no problem with 30 frames per second. But why is this such an important issue? Because I know you really love your FPS high when it comes to these shooter games, but this is a game that goes from first to third person, and do you really have to kind of worry about that kind of online, gun combat style for Starfield? I'm just not quite sure.
I mean, here's the thing. So when you go back to like the 2007 era, around there, like Xbox 360, end of the Xbox era,
yeah.
A lot of the shooters that came out around that time, actually pretty much all of them, they were capped at 30 frames per second. Like Halo 3, 30 frames per second. If it, sometimes would drop below that, it would be below that. But I think if it's a stable 30 frames per second, it can be enjoyable. But honestly, once you compare that to 60 frames per second, and when you make the jump from 60 frames per second to 120, that is a jump that is honestly, you can't really go back.
But do you think most gamers, though, HenricK, do you really think most gamers are really going to care the day the game comes out with Starfield that that's going to make it or break it compared to Redfall we were just talking about during pause or repeat?
You can look at the comments, though, and you'll see that a lot of people were upset about that.
That's
and they were
true.
upset about it when Redfall did it, too.
But I feel like because Redfall's so different because it's locked in that first person, and you're going to want that fast-paced action because you're going to get vampires coming at you like a Call of Duty zombie kind of ordeal. I don't imagine Starfield being that style of game. I think it's really going to be, kind of the joke that everybody made fun of with PlayStation. All they do is make cinematic kind of style of games. What the hell do you think Starfield's going to be like? It's cinematic. They want you to take all in the dimensions, the atmosphere. You're going to be traveling through space. I mean, they want you to just take it all in. So I don't know if they're too worried about the combat gameplay.
Chris, I'm gonna call you out on this right now.
Okay, go for it.
So last week we covered a little bit about Tears of the Kingdom, and in that pause and repeat section, you said, Nintendo always gets, a pat on the back for giving us mediocre graphics. Don't you think that graphics, as like the section of what makes a game, don't you think that frame rate kind of falls into that as well?
Absolutely not in my level. I mean, we're really comparing the animation drawing style compared to Starfield right now? Really, HenricK?
I mean,
that's what you're trying to call me out on?
Styles, but I see the frame rate as part of the graphical presentation of the game. And if they're saying, oh, well, this game's only going to run at 30 frames per second, and there's no option for 60 frames, even if you drop down the resolution,
But don't
That's a
you
red
think
flag
that
to
there?
me,
I
honestly.
think there's gonna eventually be a patch that's gonna come out. I think they just want to make sure that the game comes off on a successful approach. That they know that they've done multiple tests of the game. You know that it works on 4K 30 frames per second. It's gonna work on 1440 30 frames per second. Let's not have a terrible start on the first 2 months. We'll wait it out, play it through, and then eventually I think that they'll drop gosh knows what, maybe 60 frames per second. I feel like they sort of did that in the future with their, that studio developers, but again, we'll see what's good. We want to know from you gamers. I mean, is this a major concern? I mean, we might, if you guys start getting the whole, comment section going, we'll definitely respond more to it. But I know this has definitely been a heavy debate with HenricK the Wreck and I over the Rage Quit years. But I say we move on to the next conversation because, that was pretty much the recap overall. But I know one of the big things that's happening in the world of television, film, and video games. What does that have to do with anything? Well, Messi, the superstar, he completed his move to Inter Miami. He will also team up with Sony Music Entertainment and Atlantis Animation to produce his own animated series. And I'm sure everybody's probably wondered, why the hell are we bringing up Messi during a video game talk show? Well, the thing is, the series stars him aimed at, young adolescents, following his journey as a child, confronting obstacles in the world of different video game universes, which I thought was very, very intriguing. I know a lot of the comments were not as active. I was quite surprised that IGN, GameStop, and the rest of the gaming outlets didn't pick this up. Why is that the case, HenricK? I know that there were early rumors back in March, but it officially got confirmed by Variety a couple days ago. So, I mean, Messi's the biggest superstar in the world. Why wouldn't they showcase anything?
I don't know, honestly. Maybe they see that, because he is a football superstar, globally. I'm saying football because that's what everyone calls it everywhere else in the world except for the States. But maybe they see because he is that, maybe there's not as much of a translation of people who are interested in gaming and that. I think it's interesting because, it could be a really good animated series. But
yeah, because I when I was thinking about it, you think about the effect, the Messi effect, right? I mean, he's almost doing what Taylor Swift did with the whole Ticketmaster debacle. He goes to Inter Miami. They had over 1 million followers on their Instagram account. In less than 24 hours, garnishes over 3 million followers just because of the signing of Messi. Tickets were averaging about $26 and now have jumped to over $425. And I actually looked at some LAFC games, and obviously they were the MLS champions, so they get to kind of pull some leverage. They don't even know if Messi's even going to show up in that game, and the tickets are already being sold for like about $280. So it's insane the effect that he's got worldwide, and especially since what we already know with television, film, and music combined, the gaming industry dominates that. So why wouldn't you want to put your foot in the door and join this space that there's going to be future gamers out there that are going to want this beyond the Wreck-It Ralph, beyond some of those different games. But obviously the comments were very, very lively online, and we're going to showcase that to you guys right now. One of them goes, "We asked for a Free Guy too. Not a sports series version of Free Guy starring Messi," which is sort of funny. Was this the kind of graphics you were talking about, HenricK? This gave me animated WWE vibes.
Wow, calling me out on that.
I'm just saying. I mean, is that the style? Is that the style of animation that you would like to see, or would you want to see it more on the lines of what they did with Super Mario, for example?
You know
Sonic
what?
the Hedgehog.
Illumination has that style of like the 3D animation, and I think that it could be interesting to look at. But there's a certain charm to like the 2D animation, and I know you said you haven't seen the new Spider-Man movie, but that one is really well done as well. And I mean that's more like the comic book style. But I think that Probably they do, if anything, they probably would do like a 3D, I'm feeling like.
I feel like they'll probably jump around. I mean, if you're going to be jumping to different multiple dimensions, I mean,
Actually, that's
you
a
know.
good point. Yeah, they probably are going to change up the styles. And,
Yeah,
props to the
exactly.
animators for doing that.
Right, but that's what would make it fun. But if you stuck
Mhm.
to just one graphical style, then it probably will lose me. But then again, guys, this is gonna be aimed towards kids, so don't start criticizing Messi that you're an 18 years and older, and you're eating your hot Cheetos, smacking your keys on the keypad, talking shit. It's not for you. It's for the Coco Melon crowd. Okay, that's just what it's gonna be.
Mhm.
I know one person goes, they lost me at the video game part, but then winning the Balloon d'Or is no fun. But we coming for that Emmy, and that's kind of that joke, right? I mean, when I read this, I was kind of reading that as everybody kind of wants to be that Kobe Bryant, right? You get all the accolades in the world. We know that Apple is about to develop a documentary following Argentina to the World Cup, where he finally pulls it off in the end. He's got that major MLS pass deal with Apple TV, where he's going to give a percentage of that. And let's not forget, at the end of his time with Inter Miami, he has a chance to be a part owner of the crew. I mean, what an incredible decision and what an incredible businessman. But since we are talking about animation in the world of video games, you sort of referenced Illumination Film, which is exactly where I'm going. And I'm going to showcase this. Maybe you guys haven't heard this yet, but Illumination Film, the ones who made the Super Mario movie, is going to be making what is it, Henrik?
A Legend of Zelda movie.
And you don't sound too excited.
Well, I've had this debate with multiple people at this point. I'm not sure if Illumination is the right choice for a Legend of Zelda game, or sorry, animated series or movie.
Yeah. I mean that's a good point. I know there was a lot of people online that were, kind of iffy about it. I mean, one person wrote, "Please don't be a live action. Please 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 don't be a live action." And then one guy writes back, he goes, "I mean, a live action Zelda film could work, but they're working with Illumination, so it's just gonna be an animated film." And then one person in the comment up on the top is basically saying, hey, listen, look, if we're gonna do this, this is the guy that I would want to make it happen. Which is, I don't want to say his name because I'm a butcher his name. I always hate butchering people's names. I know you know how to say it, Henrik. So why don't you go ahead and do it?
The Studio Ghibli guy, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. So, people are obviously very lively about that. One person wrote, "They better not pull us safe like they did with Mario and just bombard us with this nostalgia to tingle our brain receptors. The stories in Zelda have so much potential, so much darkness, that emotion would be beautiful in a movie format to..."
And that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean, like the Zelda series in comparison to the Mario series delves into deeper, darker concepts than Mario ever did, like death, war, the consequences of conflict between people and nations, and that's not something you ever really see in Mario. I mean, there's conflict between Bowser and his forces and Mario, but like there's never really the whole aftermath that you see.
Would you be upset that if they turned it into a love story, though? Like a Mario and Peach thing, and some guy like Bowser's trying to come in and go, "I thought you..."
I mean, that's never really been the focus of the Legend of Zelda games. Like, there is kind of like that hint at that
sort of a hint, right?
Like, yeah, a little bit of it, especially in the last two Zelda games. There was definitely the hint of a romantic relationship between Zelda and Link, but it's never really been the focus. Like, it's always just been hinted at. The focus has always been the adventure and the point from A to B, and then A being the start and B being the finish line.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And there's also another great thought-provoking tweet that someone wrote and says, "As great as the Mario movie was, I don't think Zelda would work with Illumination style. They tend to lean on a comedy, and Zelda is more serious in tone." And one guy wrote back, "Link doesn't even communicate, which will be an obvious issue they would have to consider if they are going to do such a film. maybe less comedic and more on the action side.
That's a good point too, because he
You
is
know?
a silent protagonist. He's supposed to be like a placeholder for you and I, the person playing the game or watching or whatever, to kind of insert themselves into the story. And he does, gesture and talk, quote unquote, but he doesn't actually say anything.
Well, I thought that's why, we've seen the success of films like Coda, which is a phenomenal film with, with
Oh
deaf
yeah.
actors. We also saw in the Last of Us series, with HBO, where, remember they changed, in the television production to make I'm blanking out on the character's name, but the young black kid, in
The
that
young
scene.
kid who
Remember he gets bitten.
got bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so they decided to hire a deaf actor to play that role, and it actually really worked out. It actually kind of made it a little bit more scary because when you think about it, he can't hear the mayhem. Silence is pretty powerful when you think about it. So I'm kind of I'm a little upset. I kind of wish, Universal Pictures didn't partner up with the Illumination Films because, like, you kind of referenced, these are the guys that made the great Minions series. But wouldn't this have been an awesome opportunity to turn this into a live action film starring a deaf star as Link and
That would have
really
been
kind
really interesting, yeah. To
I
kind of
think
like
that could have been
go forward
fun.
with the silent protagonist thing and full on just make him that kind of character in the movie as well.
Because that's what makes Link kind of cool. His actions speak for himself. You know what I'm saying? And I think they could really pull up like quite a visual, array of just awesome excitement on the big screen. But hey, we want to know from you gamers. I mean, are you excited for the new Zelda game? Is it going to be a game? Are you excited for the new movie? Is it going to be a bust? Is it going to be a success? Let us know what's good. But I know I might as well jump on this and set the tone for everybody. College football players in the new EA Sports college football video game are not happy at all, supposedly. I mean, fans of the popular video game franchise were very excited, knowing that it is set to return next year, which is NCAA football, which is very, very cool. But what ended up happening was EA Sports is contracted to a group called One Team Partners to incorporate the name, image, and likeness into the game. Remember, this has been the big controversy, whether you want college universities getting involved with the business decisions of sports athletes. So when it comes to the game being relaunched, all eligible FBS players can opt into having their likeness incorporated, right? So you can be compensated. So, the College Football Players Association is urging eligible players to boycott because they feel like they are not being paid enough, according to On3, citing, the compensation is way too low. They're claiming that each player will be paid $500 each, and one reporter was even claiming, for example, on that same article from On3, that in the Madden games, for example, NFL players tend to get paid around $17,000 in recent years when it comes to their name, image, and likeness. So with that being said, obviously, we got the comments for you. We want to let you guys know what's good. This was one of the first ones right here where it goes, me thinking NCAA football 2024 was actually going to come out, so that was an effing lie. One guy wrote, according to some articles I've read with the sketchy math, there's roughly 129 D1 teams. Assume there's about 105 players. That's roughly 19,350 players. Assume each gets $500. That's $9,675 $1 million that Electronic Arts would pay. Given what typical budgets of these games are, they could afford probably triple-ish. And then lastly, pay the athletes. EA does that. Not enough money. It's pathetic, kids that are getting paid to be in a video game and are being marketed for free to the whole country and are trying this. Pathetic. To lastly, It's either they get the $500 or we download the custom rosters for free that someone else made. And I don't know if people remember this back in 2014. This was something that, Johnny Manziel really tried to hammer it in. He protested back. They took his name out of the game, but, they clearly made an NPC of the quarterback around him and put his number on the back of the jersey. So, I thought that was such a great point. Do you feel that these college football players have a case? To me, I just think it's so ridiculous that, how do you even deal with the D2 and the D3 athletes? I think that's what I'm kind of puzzled with.
Yeah, that person who did the math, like, there is a lot of athletes to pay out to, but at the same time, it's EA, and if they're banking on this game making a lot of money, maybe not even from the initial sales, but from what I'm sure is going to be microtransactions mostly, like, I'm sure they can pay a little bit more at least. But at the same time...
But they're lucky just to even get anything in general. EA Sports could have technically didn't even have to do anything.
They could have just done nothing. And honestly, looking back to, when I was in college initially, I would have been happy to get $500.
Yeah, hell yeah. And what's really funny about this is people forget that, EA Sports contracted one team partners. That's the company, right? So if the college football players are upset that EA Sports is not paying them out, go blame the guy that negotiated the deal for you. That's the people that you go after, not EA Sports. EA Sports has gone, cool, we just signed off on the deal.
At the same time, though, everyone wants to complain to EA because they're the front, they're the face of it. And also, just EA sometimes does really shady things with their monetization and gaming, and people already don't like that. So why not just throw more stuff onto them, right?
And that's so true. And and if this really wigs you out and you want to support the football players, but what's really funny is they're all going to buy this game. If they see their face in there, they're going to get their, their potential baby mama, their girlfriends, their sugar mamas. They're going to get everybody playing it because they're going to go, babe, I know that you don't play this game, but I'm in it. Why wouldn't you want to be me? So
insert that meme from the Wolf of Wall Street. It's me.
That's me. Yeah, right. That's so true. So, that's pretty much said and done. We'll see what happens. This is a developing story, but I think we're both on the same consensus. Just be grateful for what you got in general. You're getting a 4-year scholarship ride for some of the best education in the country. So just be grateful for that in the end run. But HenricK, what's going on? I know analysts are kind of predicting kind of what we've been saying for the first, season 1. And even last week, the death of the console. So talk to us. What's going on, brother?
Well, I have a question for you. When was the last time that you bought a physical game?
Man. Spider-Man.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I want to say that's probably the one that I bought too. I bought the PS4 bundle with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So that's probably what, like 2018, 2019?
Yeah, 2017, something around that, that ballpark.
There, right?
And then I got gifted, Cyberpunk 2077, but I don't consider that me purchasing it, But I probably
what a gift to give someone, right?
Oh my gosh! We'll save the Cyberpunk conversation when the DLC drops, and everybody will know my opinion about what I think about Cyberpunk. But
anyways, yeah. So based on that, we're kind of on the page that we haven't really bought physical games in a long time, and I know that there's still people who do. I know people myself personally who still would prefer to buy a physical game rather than digitally download something or even go with the cloud gaming option. But the analyst Matt Piscatella, he's predicting that by 2028, AAA games more likely are going to be the digital only release kind of releases where there's not going to be a physical game that's going to be printed and sold that way. And he's seeing this because the trend kind of is going in the direction of digital and cloud gaming services rather than people going to a GameStop and buying a physical disc or ordering that online even. And I think that kind of sucks because you're cutting out it's like 5% of people now maybe on some platforms that are still buying the physical discs. And what about the people who don't have access to the internet as widely. You know, some parts of the country, it's kind of hard to get internet when you're up in like the mountains, for
But
example.
I'm hoping in like 2028 we can kind of figure this out with, you know,
I mean,
this
hopefully, but you know,
5G
we're talking about the
infrastructure.
United States here, where sometimes the infrastructure is a little iffy depending on where you are in the country.
No, I definitely hear you. You know, it makes me think about my time when I went to go out to Tokyo, Japan. I know my little brother Kelly was like very excited. He's a big Fortnite fan, and we saw a Japanese disc of Fortnite. Do you ever see a disc of Fortnite? We always talk about that and regret it to this day that we never bought it. It was so dirt cheap when
That
we
is
were in
crazy.
Tokyo that we're always mind baffled that we didn't do it because it's gonna be a rarity. I mean, think about the cassettes, think about the vinyl, think about CDs, think about floppy disks, think about Roller Coaster Tycoon on a CD. Think about what Steam has done. It is time to move on, people. I know, you know, people like yourself and HenricK, I know you're the collectible. I totally understand. When I think about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, wasn't that pretty cool and awesome scene to see people actually waiting outside a GameStop and Best Buy all over again? I know the employees don't like it, but I know, you know, the overall gaming universe is like, wow, we're back. We're really doing this. It's not just Call of Duty that's bringing kids outside or the grown-ass adults, you know. And people were very active. They were really wanting to voice their opinion about this whole digital AAA games moving towards this direction. And I know I'll re-showcase this tweet again up on top, but Matt was also claiming that Nintendo won't move as fast. But then again, it's Nintendo and they're always surprises. Like
They always do their own thing at the end of the day. Like, honestly, you know, as much as I like some of the Nintendo games, they're like behind on both hardware and, you know, software and everything.
But
probably
they're
like
also a
7-8 years.
They're kind of a mofo of a company on a level right now. I
Yeah.
mean, we sort of discussed it during season 1, but they deleted over 23,000 games from the Nintendo Direct. That's the biggest concern when it comes to cloud gaming or owning a digital asset. I mean, I think about what was the game right now, Dead by Daylight. Is that the one I'm thinking about right now, where they're talking about the end of the year? Once the game's closed, it's closed. Like, you won't be able to play the game. The servers are going to be dropped. I know the butchered Avengers game. You know, those all servers are going to be ending pretty soon. So that's the biggest concern when it comes to
the
digital
whole
and cloud gaming.
Preservation thing is definitely a concern, because like some of those games that get released digitally and then never get maintained after a few years, you know, like if you look back at, like you said, the Marvel's Avengers games, like that game, it flopped. So that's why they're not, you know, keeping it up. And, you know, 10 years from now, you're probably not going to be able to play that.
Or think about the guy during the Red Dead Redemption 2 playing on his Google Stadia, doing this like crazy amount of work on it, and then they go, sorry, we had to shut down the console. What happens if you're like so hooked? Like, I mean, I thought was really cool during the Summer Game Fest, where they kept showing that, you know, Samsung, we're going to bring it to the TV. Who's been preaching it? Who's been preaching on the show that they're going to come to the smart TVs? Who's been saying? We have. We've been telling you guys that it's coming. And we saw the very first look of like, you don't need a console. And that's why Xbox, you know, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, they're all kind of panicking behind the scene, because they're kind of realizing like, yeah, you know, some people might want their consoles. Like, you know, HenricK was saying, some of us might want to go up to Big Bear and not have internet, but we still want to play some video games. And that's kind of the reality. But, you know, we also had, you know, comments here where it goes, buy physical, peeps. This is your last chance before an all digital future gives big publishers control over prices, and get used to games you, quote, own getting delisted, updated against your will, and require online connection at all times. And the guy says, not wrong. You know, kind of reminds me of when we all used to say, hey, let's cut the cable. Aren't we all kind of regretting that we're saying cut the cable? You know, the next one, this guy said, nah, this is utterly ridiculous, where at Next Gen Player comes out and says, from a business perspective, it seems totally rational to me. For example, 95% of Capcom sales are now digital. 95%. That's insane. Not only would going only digital not result in much revenue loss, but they would save the high cost of producing and distributing physical games. To lastly, I think that third-party publishers like Limited Run, THQ Nordic would probably step into physical distribution for these games. That's if the next consoles have a disk drive. They'll probably give you two different options. One, for just cloud gaming, pay an extra $150, to be able to put your physical disc in.
They actually brought up an interesting point in that last comment of, is the next generation of consoles even going to have a disk drive to put?
And I'm going to tell you
CD
right now,
into?
you just gave him an idea because, like, think about, I know my little brother was so upset. I don't know why I'm keeping using him as an example today, but I know he had the MacBook Air. Remember the newer models, the thin ones? What do they don't have?
They don't have a CD drive.
It's so freaking annoying, or like sometimes you just wish you had a basic USB.
That is.
It's
I have
like
people coming into work all the time saying, "Why is there no computer with a CD drive anymore?" It's like, well, there's not enough people using them, I guess.
Yeah, they were expecting you to be a part of the Google Drive or the OneDrive, kind of crowd, or they expect you to kind of keep it remote, so. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's going to be a big problem. But, my thing is, guys, it's going to happen either way. That's how I personally feel. You can't stop it. Do you think it's going to get stopped?
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, it's not going to affect me that much, honestly, because I already buy all my games digitally on Steam, mostly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the big thing that's going to suck is if I ever do want to take... like I have a Steam Deck, and if I download a game on there, even if it's a single-player game, most likely I'm going to need an internet connection to actually play it.
Right.
Because it's going to have that DRM protection, making sure that I actually bought the game.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be a case for emulation for a lot of people, because when you emulate a game from, even if it's an older game, game is a game if you want to play a game when you don't have internet. But because you're emulating it, you're not tying yourself into the standard ecosystems that they were released on. You don't have the chains of online only or anything like that. And I feel like that might be the thing as to what causes like a bit of a revolution in game preservation for these online only games. Maybe 5 years down the line, when the servers are shut down, and they're not even making money on them anymore, people are going to go in, tweak a little thing here and there, and mod the game so you can play it on offline only.
I feel that what most gaming studios are expecting, and I have a feeling that majority of games are going to be kind of produced a little bit faster now that COVID's over. I know that, it might kind of seem a little slow and delayed and stuff like that, but like, I just feel like when video games get more developed, they won't have so much of a concern when it comes to the cloud gaming space because, my personal take is gaming developers don't expect you to play the game after 3 years. Maybe a few. Like the Spider-Man, you might want to go and revisit, etc. But a good majority of the games, they'll feel outdated. And I think that's what they're hoping with cloud gaming, that there won't be too much of a concern about some guy like 5 years down the road where he's like, oh, I lost all my Ghost of Tsushima. Now I got to start all over. I was on the hard mode. And, I don't, they're going to go, you're one of the few, the proud, the brave, but we're not too concerned with you. We're expecting you guys to knock this kind of game out, in a month, and then don't ever revisit God of War Ragnarok for a couple of years. Because you're going to have over 300 plus games. That's really, at least in my experience with the PS Premium, you're not really going back and playing a game. You're going to constantly keep exploring. You're going to want to jump to a lot of the indie game developers. You're going to really want to explore that more than ever, only because now it's accessible, on a level. I don't know about you, HenricK, but you always see the $70 and the $20 games, and you kind of become a little bit biased. You're like, I don't know if I really want to pay that $20. Is it really that good? And it might be the best kick-ass game. It might outblow, a $70 game, but you're always a little hesitant. It's like, how they always say that about when you try to start your own t-shirt, marketing company. Do you really want to lower your prices to $20 just because you want to sell a lot? No, some people in the back of their head, the consumer's mind's going, why is he selling for cheap? Is it a shitty quality shirt? No, it's a really good shirt. And it's like, no. So people are willing to spend the money if they will. And we will see when it comes to, the cloud gaming future. But my one little advice that I'll give people is, and what I've been kind of scoping in the marketing sense, if you want to participate in cloud gaming, a lot of the sales tend to go down during, late May, early June. So you can get a lot of the 25% discounts on a lot of the annual subscriptions, or look around during Black Friday during the last month or the last week, excuse me, of November. That will be your best bang for your buck. And then you're going to be loving life, because I think I was only paying like $7.50 a month for, PS Premium Plus. It's pretty freaking cool. And I'll leave it at that. But you want to say anything else?
So, just one last comment. Don't you think, though, that if you limit yourself to games that have only come out in the past 3 years, that you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself? Because, like, there's a lot of games that have come out, even, looking at now, come out in beyond the past 3 years that have been amazing. Like,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
Just think back. Just think back. There's, like the thing that just got into the Game Hall of Fame that we called out last week.
Yeah,
The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, The Last of Us. Right.
Like that game came out how long ago? Like what? 20?
Yeah, 13 years ago.
13?
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So, if you're limiting yourself to only games that came out in the last 3 years, I guess you can play the remaster. But
right.
Like,
I think
you're
the
kind of
only
limiting yourself.
I don't know if that's going to be the number one concern. What it potentially will be is, it's like, how like a lot of people say, like, hey, the console war, it's not a real thing. I don't know what you guys are all talking about. No, it's going to be a streaming gaming war. And what I mean by that is, Nvidia's coming into the game. Nvidia is already making, global deals with a lot of these studio companies to be like, hey, we'll be your new host to host your games, and then wait until Netflix gaming starts developing, their streaming services. And so what I'm saying by that is, you're only going to be able to play certain games if you decide to cloud game, and you're going to have to be selective. So are you going to do it monthly? Are you going to invest on the discount annually? Because, they're going to play with you on a level. Sometimes they don't even announce a game. They do them monthly, for example. I know that, at least in my experience, sometimes they'll go, hey, in the month of May, we just dropped 2 or 3 AAA games, but they'll probably be like 5 years old. But if you never played it, you're like, hell yeah. So we'll see what's good when it comes to the world of that. But I know the last topic that we're going to be visiting today on Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show is the Nickmercs drama. He is a popular Twitch streamer who is now facing sanctions against him and his controversial remarks concerning the LGBTQ community. Consequently, Activision has decided to remove the Call of Duty skin associated with the streamer from the game. And anybody who hasn't seen Nickmercs' comments, we will show you the video right now, because he has responded the next day.
I do not feel that way. I just simply feel that I want to be the one, and my wife wants to be the one to speak with our child about stuff like that. And that was the tweet. That was the tweet. You can take the tweet if you want, and you can spin it, flip it, flop it, quote tweet it. You can put 10 paragraphs on top of it. You can do whatever you want to it to make you feel better if that's what you want to do. But that was the tweet, okay? So if you came here to hear that, I hope you feel a little better about it. I didn't mean to upset anybody. I know that I did. I'm not apologizing about the tweet because I don't feel like it's wrong. I'm going to stand by what I said. I'm not going to delete the tweet. I just want to make sure everybody understands exactly the point I was trying to make by tweeting my response.
And obviously, there's another popular Twitch streamer named Tim the Tatman, and he also has his own bundle in Call of Duty, and he tweeted out, Nickmercs has been my friend for years. We went in getting our Call of Duty operators together. It feels wrong for me to have mine and him no longer have his. In support of my friend, please remove the Tim the Tatman bundle. And I know a lot of people were kind of concerned. They're like, oh my gosh, what happens if I just bought the Nickmercs bundle or the Tim the Tatman? Because, Activision did take both of them down. If you already own it, you will acquire it. You'll still be able to jump into Warzone and still play as that skin. It just won't be sold in the near future, and we will see what Activision does. We might as well go into some of the comments that were live on Twitter, which one of them wrote, some advice for Call of Duty. Stay out of politics and focus on fixing your disaster of a game. There was a faster response to what Nickmercs said than anything your player base has been requesting for the last 2 years. Get your house in order. There was another comment that said, don't uninstall Call of Duty because you support Nickmercs. Uninstall it because it's a shit game and a shit company and it has been for years. And then we hear the other side of the argument, where other people will say, blank didn't uninstall Call of Duty when the state of California filed a lawsuit against Activision Blizzard for having a workplace proven to discriminate against and harass women, but them removing Nickmercs' bundle for his homophobic tweet. That's where we draw the line. And then we have Nickmercs' comment here where one guy wrote, anyways, F Nickmercs and all the little fanboys and streamers that support him. You're all spreading hatred in this community by spreading your shitty homophobic views to your impressionable fans and enabling them to spread the hate to us just being ourselves. F you all. So, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people that kind of, were very upset by this. And I'll lead this, my whole thing with this is I think about my college times, right, Henrik, where you think about some of those like frivolous courses that you had to take, and it's like, do we really need another curriculum? And then when I think about this whole like LGBTQ plus thing, it's like, what's the fear? Like, what are people afraid about? Like, this is our world. I mean, we're always going to be talking about the lives of the LGBTQ plus. I mean, we've had the quote unquote pronoun wars going on for a whole year. It's not going to go away from the education system. And I understand that he feels like, some things, is stuff that I feel like the parent needs to be able to teach for the kid, in their own, personal matters. And I guess the one thing that I would agree with them is it's like, I don't necessarily understand why it has to be taught through like K through 12, but when you have to go and take those like sex education courses, that you have to do in like junior high and high school, absolutely. It should be, part of the curriculum and etc. But I don't know where you stand, HenricK. I mean, how do you feel about Nickmercs in Activision Blizzard's decision?
Well, first off, Activision Blizzard has every right to do what they want with their game because at the end of the day, they own it.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have people buying things in the game and everything like that, but if they decide to take something down from the store and you can't buy it anymore, that's entirely their prerogative.
Right.
I think though, like, I can't say from the perspective of a parent because I'm not one, but it's very easy to misconstrue Nickmercs' original tweet as an attack, as an aggression towards LGBTQ plus people, because even if he doesn't mean that, he didn't elaborate in that original tweet. And for a lot of people, all they're going to ever see is that original tweet. So even if he's saying it's not from a place of hatred, I just want my kid to be the one who hears it from me and not from someone else, you didn't say that in the first tweet. So that's my problem with it. But at the same time, like you said, like, this is just the way that our world is. Like, people should be allowed to be who they want to be and not feel threatened just because they feel one certain way about their sexual orientation or their gender identity. No, why are you going to hate someone for that? I just don't understand that personally.
Right.
But because of that, because it is something that goes on in our world, I think that it's important to talk about it, at least in some, educational setting as well, because one way or the other, a kid who's growing up all the way through, K through 12, they're going to hear about it, whether it's from their teachers or from their colleagues, their friends, one way or another. Like, think about back in middle school, most likely you're in the similar position as me, where, you haven't had the sex education classes yet, but you're already hearing about all that from your friends who already know about it because they've, gone on the internet and looked up something,
Sure.
or whatever,
or
what have
or
you,
participated
or that,
in
yeah,
certain
yeah.
acts.
And at the end of the day, when you look at that compared to something that might be a bit more structured, most likely the sixth grader who doesn't really know that much of the fine details about all that those sort of topics, they're gonna probably tell you things that are not entirely true.
Right.
So it's important at the end of the day to get different perspectives on this sort of thing, and it also kind of raises the question of who's actually going to be teaching these courses, because
Yeah, I mean
I know that a
that's
lot
a
of
good
people
point.
wouldn't want. I know a lot of people wouldn't want someone to teach it who isn't going to necessarily shed matters in like the best of ways. Like they're not going to really talk about things in a respectful way or anything like that.
We'll think about it in the world of like film, for example. I always called it true vision on screen, where people really kind of slam Bryan Cranston, for example. They were really upset that they couldn't find a disabled actor to play a paralyzed billionaire in a wheelchair. Like, you really couldn't scope that all out. It's just like it's like with the trans actors, for example. If you're gonna have a trans person on the script, then we want a trans person to play it on screen. I think that can kind of correlate with even that matter. But what's really interesting, I thought that was a great point that what the guy brought up when he was talking about the state of California and how no one ever talks about Activision Blizzard. Do people realize that Activision Blizzard currently right now in their world servers ban the pride flag from even being displayed in that country? Do people realize
That's
that?
interesting.
So, like, you guys are all really quick to slam Nickmercs, even when he tried to come back after 24 hours in a video, really trying to explain that was not my intention. I have no hatred towards the LGBTQ+. I just feel like this is a personal matter, but no one wants to talk about how they get rid of the pride flag and why they only do that for the Middle East countries. There's a lot of hypocrisy. I feel like Nickmercs will bounce back, clearly. I did have the image here, but I must have actually forgot to upload it to the thing. Maybe I might be able to showcase it to you guys right now. Okay, I got it right here. Because clearly Nickmercs, he's not hurting from the effect of what happened. Just look at this. His follower count just on Twitter alone has risen in support of Nickmercs and what I would call the hypocrisy of Activision Blizzard. And we also have to remember, they're in the middle of like a FTC war. They're in Europe. They're trying to, solidify that deal. So they don't need Nickmercs and Tim the Tap Man's bullshit. So again, like you stated, they are a private entity. At the end of the day, it's like Twitter. If they want to ban a sitting president from being able to tweet on their platform, as much as, I thought that was very strange at the time, they have every right to do it. So, if you don't like the decision, don't play it. If you're like Dr. Disrespect, who wants to support him, and you feel like the way to do it is by uninstalling the game, go ahead. But at the end of the day, people will still love Nickmercs and what he does and brings to the community. And it'll be interesting because I know Call of Duty's been hurting for quite a while. And to see some of their, when you think of Call of Duty, you think about some of the streamers, who do you think about? Tim the Tap Man and Nickmercs. So that's a major, major loss. And who's going to be that new forefront or that new shiny spokesperson? We'll see what's good. But wasn't this an amazing show?
Well, one last comment. Also,
yeah.
Activision Blizzard, they just got off the heels of that big sexual assault scandal. So I'm sure that at least in the United States' eyes, in the news cycle, they probably don't want to be involved with really any controversy if they can help it. So pulling their skins from the store, that's an easy move for them.
Right. It's an easy move because at the end of the day, they got to protect their bottom dollar. And it's Pride Month, people. I mean, what a hell of a time to be saying something kind of stupid like this, Nickmercs. But then again, I understand where you're coming from. But then again, there are repercussions, and you're going to have to deal with it, my friend. But
Yep.
man, HenricK the Wreck, this has been such a fun, jam-packed show. Who would have thought we would have gone over an hour? I didn't even think we'd be having this much fun talking about video games. And we can't thank you, the gamers, for participating every Tuesday at 10 a.m., joining HenricK the Wreck and I. We got a lot of exciting things coming throughout the month. But HenricK, where can they follow you on social media?
So I post on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, as well as TikTok. So you can find me on all those social media platforms. I'll post clips from our live shows, as well as just fun videos or gaming news segments that I'll post there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And go ahead and visit thechriscollinsshow.com. I got awesome showcases that I would love to show you guys. If you're big music lovers, I got a music podcast called Off the Fret, More Music Talk. And I got 2 future episodes that are going to be dropping this month. The 2 bands are called Weatherworn and Wolf Road. And if you haven't heard of them, what the hell are you waiting for, fam? If you're into rock and roll, you're going to love it. But we can't thank you guys enough for joining us. And if you're streaming from HenricK the Wreck's YouTube channel, or if you're streaming from the Chris Collins Show YouTube channel, take the time to hit the notification bell so you never miss a live show. Hit the follow and subscribe button if you're on our Twitch TV. And again, thank you. And we will see you next week, fam.
Yep.
Peace.
Thank you all for joining. See you next week.
That's right, baby. Peace.